were awesome, but we were also awesome because of the wind helping us out and balls not being completed. That look, go back to the Dallas game in week 1. Now, I know the defense is better than that, but it only takes one game where your defense just doesn't have it that day, and they give up 21.
Let's get Mike Gill up here, see what Mike Gill's got to say about this Eagles team. There is always something to talk about. It's like the easiest team to do a talk show on in the world, the freaking Eagles. Let's bring in Mike Gill. You'll follow him at Mike Gill Show. Go and subscribe to his YouTube channel. Listen to him at 97.3 ESPN down the shore. Mike, welcome to the program. How you doing today, my man?
The great Led Zeppelin song, guys, nobody's fault but mine. That's what every single individual player on this offense needs to start singing. Nobody's fault but mine. You said it, John. Remember in the offseason when I came on and I wondered whether Zach Bond can be as good as he was last year? And could Cooper DeJean get better than he was last year? And Quinyon Mitchell be better than he was last year? We wondered about the defense because they lost 5 players. So we wondered, could this defense be as good, if not better? And I said, well, we're just taking for granted that all these guys are going to improve. And they all have pretty much. I don't know that Bond's having as destructive of a year, but he's not having a bad year.
No.
He's been as good, if not better. Mitchell's probably been better. But who thought on the offense that every single player would be worse? It's unbelievable. Every player on the offense is actually worse.
I think Devontae's having it. Well, last week he had a bad game, but I think overall he's a little bit better.
And Goddard's numbers might be better, but overall, and as you guys were talking about this is what the past game has been, I went back and looked. In 2021, they threw the ball 35 times, 39 times, 48 times, 37 times, 34 times in the first 5 games of the season. They wanted to throw the ball with this team.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I've explained that for years.
And they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. And I'll say this. The offensive line on that team was very good. And they acknowledged that. Let's use the line and run the ball, and they went to the playoffs. But this team wanted to be a passing offense. Nick Sirianni wanted this to be a passing offense. And he found out early, I cannot do it, and I'm going to have to pivot. And they have not been able to throw the ball like a normal NFL team since. And I say normal NFL team. You got crap burger teams that can throw the ball that win 3 games that have a better passing efficiency than this team here. It is unfathomable that a team that is
the only guys who have a worse efficiency are like Cam Ward and J.J. McCarthy, who are rookies and just brutal and don't know how to play the game. That's it. That's it.
It's unbelievable. And I remember coming on here way back and say, with this group of guys, I mean, you should roll out of bed and be able to design an offense that scores 28 points a game, just by accident. By accident, I scored 28 points because my personnel is so good, not because I'm any good, but because what you've given me is so good that a half jackass could score 28 points with this group of guys. You've got.
Here's what I'll say, Mike. Here's what I'll say. They could score 28 points a game if they wanted to. And they probably win 10 games or 11 games and be a 5 seed or 6 seed and go on the road in the playoffs. If they really wanted to, if they just wanted to spread it out and let Jalen Hurts throw it, they could do it. They could do it. They could score some points. Not going to win as much.
As we watch this team try to throw the ball week to week, though, are we starting to wonder if they could? In years past, it was, is that what you all wanted to see? We could do it if we really feel like it. They tried last week. They tried.
Yeah, but last week it was so windy. Look at Jared Goff.
I heard the Green Bay game was windy as well.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's see if they can.
But that's the point. There are those games. There's the Vikings game where he had a perfect passer rating. There's the Giants. They're few and far between. There's the halves. There's the first half against Tampa and the second half against, was it whichever, vice versa, whatever. There were halves early in the season. So I do think, and you know this, Mike, people get caught up in what they saw last. And they saw what they saw last, and they assume it's going to continue like that. Well, no. They're going to be in Dallas in a perfect environment, and they're going to look better. Are they going to look good enough? I don't know, but they're going to look better.
Better hope. I would say right now, I talked about this on my show yesterday, is Dallas really needs to win. If they want any shot to make the playoffs, they have to have this game. I mean, they're at 4 wins right now. I think 10 is going to be the number to get that 7th wild card spot. So they would have to win 6 games, really. They almost have to run the table here.
What do they got, 7 left? They got 7 left. Right?
They have a tie. They do have a tie, which, keep in mind, they lose the tiebreaker to Carolina, who's got 6 wins. Carolina has 2 more wins than Dallas, and they beat Dallas. Now, I don't know that Carolina gets to 10, but that's going to be – they have a tough road. But even to get on that road, they have to win this game. And, you know, it feels a lot – it's so funny, the parallels to that 2023 season. When you were 10-1, you got blasted by San Francisco, and then you played Dallas the next week and got Rochambeaued by them too. And Dallas ended up catching you when nobody thought that was possible. Now, this is even a further gap than that was. But Dallas has it set up here to at least, I don't know that they catch you in the division, but they have a chance.
They can at least make December somewhat interesting if they win.
Exactly. And they have something now that they did not have and that you struggle with, which is they've got real talent in the interior of that defensive line. And the Eagles' interior right now struggles with that interior pass rush. I mean, Landon Dickerson's just not the same guy right now. You don't know what's going on at center. Obviously, Juergens had to leave the game. And Steen, I think, is much better in pass protection than he is as a run blocker. So this is an interesting matchup all of a sudden.
Well, it's also the number 1 ranked passing offense in the NFL.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting from that perspective. Mike, you gave a song, all right, a little Led Zeppelin song. I love the reference, by the way. I'm going to give you a song that maybe the fans should listen to. It's a Rolling Stones song. You can't always get what you want, all right? But maybe you'll get what you need on this team. Mike, where do you put the blame offensively? Is it Jalen Hurts? Is it Kevin Patullo? Is it the Nick Sirianni philosophy, who I must point out is 40-2 with this philosophy? I mean, somebody told me yesterday, Zander, you in a business. If you made 95% of, or made decisions that resulted in a 95% win rate, I can guarantee you wouldn't change your philosophy. To that, I said, touche. What do you put it on, Mike?
Well, there's a pie chart here, right? I mean, it's not one guy. I think the offensive line gets a heavy part of the pie chart. They can't do what they want to do successfully the way they have in the past because the formula is not there. They ran the ball with tremendous success in 2022, 2023, 2024, and they're not doing it right now because that offensive line is not the same. So that offensive line gets a big part of the pie chart because they want to run the ball. They can't do it to the success that they've had in their past. To which, okay, now we have to pivot a little bit. Now we have to try to get a little bit more creative, which then would go to the play design. Their passing game is elementary. I mean, it's pathetic what they're running with the routes that they're running with these guys. Now, maybe they're open. Maybe there's missed opportunities out there, but you are not maximizing the talent that you have in the pass game. And I get it. They don't want to be a pass team. They want to run the ball, but you're not running the ball. So therefore, I have to put some blame on them for not saying, hey, we are not doing what we did with the same success, so we're going to have to be better at this. And quite frankly, they're not very good at passing the ball. And then listen, they went under center. They started to run the ball under center. They don't build off of that at all. There's no play action. There's no like, hey, we're going to run the ball, take our shot down the field, run the ball, bootleg, nothing. They do nothing off of being under center other than they run the ball under center. They put a play in last week with Devontae Smith in the backfield and they play action it to him. Now, what asshole is going to think they're going to hand the ball off to Devontae Smith standing next to him like a high school running back? It's the most pathetic play design. They have no creativity in this offense at all. They build off nothing. You know, it's like a wrestling match. There's a story that builds as the game goes on here. There's no story here. There's no like, hey, they ran that play in the third quarter and that set this play up here late. Nothing. There's nothing with this offense that it surprises you or excites you. And I get it. This is how they've won. However, they are winning. But A.J. Brown said it, and I think we should listen to what the man said. You can't keep slapping a Band-Aid on this thing because eventually, you know, I go back to this conversation I had with Britton Covey a couple years ago, and he said winning masks your issues. It just masks them. So you don't want to sometimes admit that you have problems because you constantly just keep saying, hey, we find ways to win. We find ways to win is translation. We're not as good as we think we are. We keep finding ways to win. Eventually that runs out on you. And I just look at this offense and wonder, they won the game against Detroit. And I have to think that offense is saying, we're not holding up our end of the bargain. And what happens when you don't hold up your end of the bargain? The cracks begin and the stories start. We don't like this guy, and this guy's hard to deal with, and I don't like the offense. That's what ends up happening. And that's how these things fold. So they better get their act together quickly because there's 7 weeks left of this. And that's a long time to have people infiltrating stories out there of, oh, he don't like him and that don't like him. 7 weeks isn't a lot of time in terms of the season, but it's a lot of time to let little stuff start filtering out there.
Mike, is the defense simply good enough for this team to keep winning? I mean, hear me out. Sure. Aren't the Lions the team that would – now, I get it, the weather. Me and John have talked about that at length. They're the team, though, like that I was like, we can't play offense this way versus the Lions. They're going to score points. We hold them to 9 points. Packers, another team that I thought could put up some points. They don't score any points on a – like this defense has gotten better and better each week, and it almost feels like now they're at a level where maybe we can rely on that defense. I mean, if they get a bunch of stops – we put up a couple touchdowns a game, maybe 14 points a game. I don't know. That might be enough with this defense.
Listen, yes, the defense is good enough, but this is the NFL. You can't win 10-6, 16-6 every single week. There's a week in there where your defense, hey, listen, I said the other day, people are like, well, Dallas beat the Raiders. The Raiders suck. Okay, I'll play along. You know what you're supposed to do when you play a bad team? Kick the crap out of them. The Eagles went to the Giants. What happened in that game? You didn't kick the crap out of that team. You got your ass kicked. So Dallas, yes, beat a crappy Raiders team, but they did what they're supposed to do. And the last time I checked in that game, Philadelphia's defense got the crap beat out of them in that defense. And by the way, the week before they played Denver. And while their defense wasn't awful all game long, in the fourth quarter, when the offense said, hey, guys, help us out, and it's not their fault. I'm not saying – but they couldn't hold on and win that game. You can't count on them to give up 16 points every game. There's going to be a week in there where they give up 20 or 24. And can your offense score 27? I mean, we're at the point now, we're not sure this team can score 20 points in a game. Now, I get the weather. I do want to see how big of a factor. But I know in all the years that I've been doing this, there's been windy games before. And I don't remember seeing offense this terrible where you're just like, my God. And
well, here's why I bring up the weather. Look at the other side.
I was
like,
say,
I know
the other side having their issues, I think certainly.
See, here's the thing to me, Mike. Everybody's like, well, the defense played great, and they did, but they had a 12th defender, which was the win.
Exactly. So how much can that defense say, hey, we were awesome, but we were also awesome because of the wind helping us out and balls not being completed. That look, go back to the Dallas game in week 1. Now, I know the defense is better than that, but it only takes one game where your defense just doesn't have it that day and they give up 21. And if that's the case, and you say, how many times did the Eagles go into the playoffs with those Buddy Ryan teams counting on their defense? Never got it done.
Yeah.
How many times did they go into the playoffs with those Brian Dawkins teams and count on their defense? I was at a 14-9 playoff game against the Carolina Panthers. They couldn't get it done. The defense couldn't get the stops when they wanted to get the stops. You can't count. And listen, all it takes is one awful referee call in that game the other night. That's not a pass interference against A.J. Brown. They got bailed out in that game. And if their defense could have balled out, now I'd probably still win that game because Detroit's down 2 scored. My point is, if that's a one-score game or that's a field goal game.
That was a one-score game at that point. They could have tied the game.
That's right. Oh, yeah. In that moment, you're right. It was a one-score game. So that's all it takes. You can't depend on your defense to win 10 more weeks. 10 more weeks they have a football left to go.
But here's to that point,
I say 10
and
if you want to get to the Super Bowl. You want to get to the Super Bowl.
Exactly. And that's why I bring that up, because it works both ways. Like, people want to say, well, the defense was great and the offense stinks, but they don't want to factor in the wind. Well, the wind might have affected the offense and helped the defense. This offense has scored 38 points against the New York Giants, coming back from that awful first performance. They scored 28 points in Minnesota with a perfect passer rating. They had the great half in Tampa Bay where they ended up scoring 30 points. Now, help with special teams. Rams, 33, help with the field goal block. But still, representative offensive performances. Like, I don't think they are what they are offensively because of the Detroit and the Green Bay game, because the weather was an issue. And if you don't believe that, look at the Packers, who have a top 10 offense. Look at the Lions, who have a top 10 offense. That was the worst game Jared Goff ever played. Part of it, yes. Hat tip to Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Moro Ajomo and Jalen Phillips. Phenomenal performance. But part of it was the weather. And the weather is going to be pristine. So if they score 10 points in Dallas, or if they score 16 points in Arlington, I'd like to be correct. Yes, then pile on, especially against that defense, which, by the way, is getting a little bit better. It's terrible, but their safeties are healthy. Overshown's back. They got Williams to add to Kenny Clark. It's getting better. Matt Eberflus is starting to figure it out. And they're the number 1 ranked passing offense in the NFL. They can score some points. They're going to have to score some points in that game. And there's no wind that's going to save them. Maybe the curtains are not closed and maybe somebody misses a drop ball because it's so sunny. But it's going to be a perfect environment for offense. And they're going to have to score some points. And if they don't, then I'm here on the post-game show. I'll be here all next week, and I'll be piling on. But to look at those two particular games and not see that the weather had an impact, I don't agree with that.
Oh, I definitely think it had an impact in the pass game. No question. Doesn't have an impact in the run game.
No. I'm talking about the passing game specifically.
Right. I'm saying. And I do agree that it obviously affected both Green Bay, Detroit, Philadelphia. So all 3 teams were pedestrian in the passing game in the last, 2 games. The one thing that really stands out to me, Green Bay, Carolina ran the ball all over them. They couldn't stop them. The New York Giants ran the ball all over them. They couldn't stop the Giants' run game. The Eagles could not run the ball against Green Bay. I get it. Just because they're all different games, but I'm the Philadelphia Eagles. I want to run the ball. You're telling me the Carolina Panthers and the New York Giants came in with a game plan of we want to run the ball against you, and they can pull it off, and you can't find a way to do it? That's concerning to me. That's what I'm wondering about is why can Carolina say we're going to go right at you?
There's no threat in the passing game, Mike. Is it that? There's no freaking threat. 5 guys on the offensive line. I don't care if you have 5 Lane Johnsons. They're not going to block 8 guys. John pointed it out. The Lions played press man coverage all game, and Amik Robertson and Rock Ya-Sin were running in stride with our receivers. They got 8 guys in the box. No shit, we can't run the ball.
Yeah. Well, and I look at, the Giants, who do not have a very good offensive line, right? That's not a good offensive line over there. Their back is out, so they're on to their, second or third back at this point of the game. And the only reason they're really in that game, well, is because they did have some threat of the passing game. I mean, Jameis Winston makes mistakes, but at least they think he might throw the ball on them. But they ran the ball 38 times for 142 yards against Green Bay. I mean, it's not like they had 6-7 yards of carry, but they just pounded them, and it kept them in that game. The week before, I mean, Carolina ran the ball all over them. They just couldn't stop the run. You watch that game, the Green Bay Packers can't stop the run a lick. And they had a pretty, they stopped you.
Well,
in running the game.
Jameis Winston is a great example because Jameis, he can throw the ball, and he's also going to throw a ton of interceptions.
Right.
Remember Nick Mullins, who was here for a very brief period, and he was coming back from an elbow injury, wasn't healthy. When he got to play, it was the craziest thing. He got to play in San Francisco at one point. He got to play in Minnesota at one point because of injuries. He's a guy who was on pace to throw for like 5,000 yards and 40 interceptions. If he played a full season. He could throw it all over, and then he'd make the stupidest throw you ever seen and turn the football over. Like I said, be careful what you wish for, man. Be careful what you wish for, because the one thing that's going to kill you in this league is turnovers.
No doubt. Well, listen, John, I'm not asking for turnovers. I'm saying Rico Dowd had 25 carries for 130 yards.
Well, and that takes me back to the original conversation, which is the two perceived biggest playmakers on this team are not playing well or not playing up. And I hate to say that about AJ, but flat out, if you look at AJ, here's his PFF rankings: number 2, number 5, number 6, number 9, number 4. That's his entire career. This year, he's 34th. That's still well above average. But he ain't the same player. Now, Saquon, they got 59 running backs graded. He's number 43. Number 43. Now, and remember, they're grading if an offensive lineman misses a block, they don't mark the running back down. That's not the running back's fault. They're looking at his particular job and what he's doing. And he's the 43rd best running back in the NFL. There's only 32 teams. At some point, we all got to admit those 482 touches that we never stopped talking about have turned him into a different player, at least this season. He's not playing well.
Hey, listen, I think you can – I would agree. You just have to look at the touches Bigsby's getting. I mean, there's certainly more burst, more speed, more explosion in those few Bigsby carries. He's getting 9 yards a carry. Are they calling different plays? Yeah, I think actually, Bigsby seems to be getting stuff on the outside a little bit more, some more pinch stuff where he's hitting the corners. But it's weird. And I hate, like, when they gave Saquon that extension, the first thing I said was, that's admirable, but why would you do that? Like, you didn't have to.
You said it on the show. You said it on.
I said it on this show. I said it on my show. It's admirable for the organization. It's a pat on the back to acknowledge your work.
It's a thank you.
Yes,
and it's a thank you.
And that's a great way to do business. Listen, we all wish our boss would come to us and say, "You don't even need to ask. Here's more money." But for a running back, after a 2,000-yard year where you just talked about the touches, that's probably not the time to say, here's even more money. You're paying him for the year that he had, not the years he's about to have. And you got to wonder if you need to now maybe use Tank Bigsby a little bit more in these games just to lessen his load a little bit. And that's, there's a lot here. I don't know about you guys, but we hear this stuff about the quarterback and the relationships. And I look at the TV and I see Saquon Barkley on every freaking commercial there is. And you wonder, you go to Major League 2, Charlie Sheen. It's just like, why is this guy getting every commercial? What's he getting every commercial for? He's getting 38 yards this game, and he's on every single, like there is jealousy involved, and the best teams can block that out. But is there infiltrating of he's on this commercial, he got on that commercial, this guy's doing this? You just hope that that's not the case in some of these situations, because every time you hear about, these two guys don't get along or that doesn't happen, you're thinking, how does that happen? You win the Super Bowl. How does the relationship start to fracture when you're winning? It's such a look. 53 guys, they don't all have to like each other. That we know. But if it's starting to get out that it's becoming a problem on a team that wins, that's concerning.
Handling success is an underrated part of it. That's why, Mike and I are basketball guys as well. And I always bring up, look, if you're down a point with 10 seconds left, I want Larry Brown drawing up that play. Smartest basketball guy I've ever been around by far. I want him drawing up that play to go win a game. If you want to go win a championship, I want Phil Jackson, because he's the one who's going to manage personalities. He's going to manage the superstars. He's going to manage exactly what you're talking about, Mike. Why is Kobe getting all the endorsements? Why is Shaq getting all the endorsements? You got to manage that shit. I joked about Saquon. At one point, every morning in my inbox, I'd get another Saquon endorsement. And the part of that is people don't realize, like, that shit happens in the off season. So a lot of people, well, he's got to get back in there. He's not doing this shit on his, Wednesday when they're practicing. This is all done in the off season. So he's still working hard. My concerns with Saquon are the 482 touches.
Oh, yeah. I'm not suggesting that it's part of the reason why his play isn't. A couple of weeks ago, I do a segment every Tuesday and Thursday. Casey Joyner from The Athletic is kind of an analytics guy. And we do one thought every game, where basically he gives, his reaction to every single game of the schedule, but we go a little deeper on the Eagles game. And one of the things he said to me, this was like 3 or 4 weeks ago, was that Saquon Barkley isn't making people miss. Last year, the metrics said this and this. And I kind of like, that just seems kind of asinine, if you ask me, right? I mean, I'm not an analytic, focused guy, but I appreciate that. I'm not going to push his opinion off, but at that time when he said that to me, I'm like, I think the offensive. Now, I do think the offensive line is a big problem there. But was he right? Like, is he looking at this and saying, look, he's not making people miss. When he gets hit now, he's going down, not after contact, getting through it. Last year, he was constantly getting to that second level, making people miss. The thing to me, going back to the original question 30 minutes ago, Zander, which was who gets the blame. The Eagles would be up 17-7, 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They had run the ball all game long. They had beat the crap out of that defense, and then they'd hit a home run, and 17-7 became 24-7. And then they might get another one to make it 31-7. Saquon would hit a 60-yarder, and he might get one more. Or they threw a bomb and just put the game away, and it was 31-7. So you're like, man, this team is just so dominant. They were so dominant up front. They ran the ball all day long. They just beat the crap out of that defense. And then Saquon would get that second level, and bang, he would hit it to the corner, and you couldn't catch him. Game over. You got 8 minutes left in the game right now. That game ain't over. It's a punt fest because you're going 3 and out. You cannot hit that big home run. So they're up 17-7, and the game ends 17-7 because they can't finish that game off. That, to me, is the big difference. The offensive line cannot get the job done, so Barkley can't do what he did, and therefore these games are similar to what they were last year. Ugly, turnover leads to score. You have a 10-point lead. But that 10-point lead grew in the fourth quarter with 8 minutes left, generally, because they either ran that game out and made it 24-7, or they scored and then scored again because the defense was so whipped from that offensive line. So the pie chart goes offensive line not the same by no fault of their own. How many tush pushes have they run over the years that we all love and things? Those guys are beat up, man. This line has been together for 4 years.
Oh,
really.
yeah, they're definitely beat up. They're definitely beat up.
You got Mailata, Dickerson, Lane. Those three guys have been together through the whole thing. You've got now Juergens, who played guard, then he moved to center. So he's 4 guys who have been a part of this thing for the last 3 seasons. They got a lot of wear and tear for a team that runs the ball as much as they do.
Maybe I'm just a simpleton about it, but I'm watching.
You can't get more simple than turn ball,
I'm
handoff.
watching Brian Baldinger though break down this offensive line. Hurts has 5, 6, 7 seconds to throw the ball.
That's in the pass game.
But if those balls start coming out on time, all right, even for 20% of the time, and they can move the ball a little bit through the passing game that way. You don't think that opens things up for the running game?
Oh, I agree.
Everything is condensing down on this offense because all they did last year was run. They come in, they don't have anything in the passing game. They don't have complex routes. They don't try and push the ball through the air. They try and keep running it down people's throats. Teams are stuffing 8 men in the box, and now the offensive line looks pedestrian.
Yeah, I agree. In the pass game, their offensive line is doing a good job. They are pass protecting well, and Hurts is not a guy to throw with anticipation. He's not throwing you open. He's throwing the deep ball is one of his specialties where he'll throw it to where no one else can catch it except for your guy. He's not throwing the ball over the middle of the field as you're in your break and you're turning and that ball's leading you. That's not the quarterback that he is. He's not a 1, 2, 3, bang, 1, 2, 3, bang, 1, 2, 3. He is develop, wait. And it's going to be interesting because it's not that Fred Johnson's going to give up sack after sack after sack, but is he going to get pushed back to the point where you're going to have to get off your spot and move where you didn't have to do that with Lane Johnson? Lane Johnson, bang, he sticks his guy and he's not getting pushed back into you. Fred might not give up the sack, but is he going to get pushed back into you a little further? That now you have to move. He does hold on to the ball too long because he does not throw with anticipation. He does not throw you open. That is one of the issues with him. When I talk about the offensive line, it is strictly in the run where they have dominated in years past, and they are pedestrian in that role right now.
I compare it to the rest of the league. So I kind of agree with your sentiment when comparing it against last year's team, which is one of the greatest offensive lines, I believe. And I was told that by a former NFL general manager, literally one of the greatest offensive lines of all time. I agree. They're not up to that standard. I never thought you could replicate that. For what it's worth, BFF's got them as the 9th best run blocking offensive line in football. That's 32 teams. Now they're better in pass blocking. They're number 5, but top 10 in both.
I think the offensive line is a cop out for people. I do not think that's the problem. I really don't.
I comparatively, contextually to the rest of the league, they got a damn good offensive line still.
Well,
compared to their offensive line last year, no, not nearly as good.
When you watch them play, are you seeing then Saquon missing holes? Or are you watching guys get pushed into a V into the middle and Saquon's trying to find his way out of it?
Yeah, I mean, I started the show. He's not the same guy, Saquon Barkley. Like if you're going to make me
have the running lanes and he's not getting there.
Well, he doesn't have the running lanes he had last year, which was an historic, as I said, one of the best offensive lines of all time.
Guys, if they pass the ball, am I losing my mind? If this is the second year in a row that they're a largely inept passing offense. If they could pass the ball a little better, would that not open things up for the running game? I get it, Mike. You're right. The holes aren't there.
I think you're being generous with the second year in a row.
The holes aren't there. But like everything is condensing on this offensive line. That's the only thing they do offensively.
4.5, yeah.
I asked John on Monday, which offense is better, this offense or the 2023 team that fell apart? And your answer was not even close, that team in 2023.
Oh, yeah,
Why?
Offensively?
Their offensive line was exceptional that year. And you had the same group. I mean, it's AJ, it's Devontae, it's Dallas, except for the running back on that team was what? DeAndre Swift.
Who had a good year, Pro Bowl year.
Right.
Good year.
The one difference that you have now. But you had a line that was 2 years younger. That offense was probably better. Now, the defense on that team was horrendous.
It might have been the worst in the NFL by the time the season ended.
The defense was good enough to get you to 10-1 at one point. If you remember, they had wins over Miami, who was kicking everyone's ass that year, and they shut them down. They went on the road and won at Kansas City. They beat Buffalo. It wasn't like they were winning games against bad teams. They were beating good teams that year. So this team has an eerie same feeling of they're beating good teams, but that team every week, they just find ways to win, and that's what good teams do. We're having
dumbest Sirianni decision ever. It was firing, and that he didn't fire him, demoting Sean Desai. Not because Sean was great, but to your point, Mike, people forget, as they usually do. They had some good defensive performances.
Yeah.
They didn't have any good defensive performances when they tried to change the defense.
I often reference this Britton Covey conversation that I had with him at the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. And I went back and listened to it the other day because we used some audio from it. And he said in that conversation that coordinator change was really hard on those defensive players. Like, they would talk after the game about how confused they were about, they were changing defenses on the fly. And this is why you can't just get rid of Patullo. And I would say this about Kevin Patullo. I don't know if he's going to be good or not. I don't know if he's going to be able to work out. But you better damn sure he does. You want another new offensive coordinator? How many is that going to be? 9, 10? I mean, you need to have some consistency at that spot. And even if he doesn't have a great end of this year, you almost better hope that they give him another shot to see if
I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
Because
not many people would.
People are saying, bring Brian Daboll in. Bring in Brian. Like, you want another new play caller?
Man, this is the guy's been a coach in the NFL for 16 years. People really think he doesn't know how to call a crossing route?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Well, I would say I was talking about this the other day. People just act like we always want to blame the offensive coordinator. Okay, I'll play along, right? It's the offensive coordinator. He sucks. How many offensive coordinators get hired to be head coaches? And then they go someplace and they fail and they suck. It's not just calling plays that magically opens up these offenses. We talk about it all the time. It's the execution of the play. If you don't have the talent, you could be the best play caller in the world, and at the end of the day, it's not good enough. Brian Daboll, fired. Brian Callahan, fired. Mike McCoy, fired. These guys are all offensive coordinators that got hired because they had talent. When they go to a team that doesn't have talent, you can't just be some boy wonder play caller, and I think that things are going to work for you. So, yes, I think Patullo is part of the pie here, but he has the talent. They are not executing. And if they would execute, you talk about Jalen Hurts not throwing the ball. If he gets the ball out of his hand, most of those plays are probably going to be completed and be successful, but he's not getting the ball out of his hands. So the play might be elementary, but guess what? You have the talent that you can run an elementary play. And if you just say pitch, catch A.J. Brown, and he pitches it and A.J. Brown catches it, there's a lot of times in this league, if you haven't noticed, guys can't tackle. You break a tackle and a 3-yard play turns into a 7-yard play. Sometimes simplicity is the answer to the question, and they can't even get that right.
All right, Mike, this is an interesting game this weekend, Cowboys, that John pointed out. They got an amazing passing game. They're really moving the ball well. Dak Prescott's having a great year.
George Pickens, baby. What a player.
Yeah. As Vic Fangio stated yesterday at his press conference, for all the fans who were mad at me for saying Dak's having a good year, Dak's having a great year. What do you got in this game? Is this a weird trap type of game for this Eagles team? Who do you think wins?
Oh, listen, I thought opening night was going to be, people just think Dallas stinks, blah, blah, blah. Listen, they had so many injuries last year. Then they trade Parsons, and that just piles on. I think in the end of the day, I know people that are Cowboy fans, they're actually thinking that they won that trade all of a sudden, right? They're like, we won that trade, getting rid of Parsons. And their defense is starting to come around. I know you're laughing about that, but that's what Cowboy fans, I had people.
Fans think a lot of things, but go ahead.
Well, a lot of people perceive him to be kind of a one-trick pony. He can't stop the run, all that kind of stuff. But their defense is certainly better. Now, I think one thing lost in the sauce here is opening night, no Jalen Carter. You were banged up on your defensive side of the ball as well. So the Eagles' defense wasn't where they are now. But their offense is every bit as good, if not better, than certainly Green Bay. Green Bay doesn't have the weapons on the outside that this team does. Detroit does. Detroit definitely has the weapons that this team has. I think people hate Dak Prescott. Whenever he plays, that team generally is pretty good. I mean, he's been the engineer of teams that win 13 games. Now, do they win the big game? Maybe he can't win the big game, but he can win a lot of games. I think their offense is very challenging for this team in week one. What was the narrative after the game? You got to get Adoree Jackson off the field. It's going to be the same matchup, right? I'm sure they're going to look at Adoree Jackson again and say, what did we do against you in week one? And that could be a matchup that is a big problem for Philadelphia, whoever he's matched up with, whether it's Lamb or Pickens. I don't like that matchup. So the question for me would be, can Philadelphia win a shootout type of game? And when I say shootout in the Eagles terms, that might be 24-21 with this offense. I don't think they can get to 41 if it's 41-38, something like that. I think the Dallas defense is better than it was in the opener. I think that the Eagles defense is better than it was in the opener. But I think the Dallas offense is probably a lot further along in week 12 than they were in week 1. And that will be the big matchup for me. Is their offense, which scored 20 points that night or something, what was it, 27-20 or something like that?
Yeah, I think 24.
Have they come far enough along if they come far enough along in the 12 weeks where they have a couple extra wrinkles that they didn't have in week 1? And I think it's going to be a very interesting game. You're on the road. The Eagles haven't played well there. Dak Prescott's like 50-0, it seems like, against NFC East teams in that building. So put it this way. You say there's never a dull moment. I wouldn't be surprised if Monday wasn't dull.
Good stuff.
29.6 points per game, the Dallas Cowboys. They're what you want to be offensively. At Mike Gill Show, at Mike Gill Show on YouTube as well. Follow him on X at Mike Gill Show. Listen to him, 97.3. By the way, play-by-play, how's it going with the, what do they call them now?
Yeah, Lucas. I called Saturday's game, Jared McCain. I thought looked pretty good. Nick Nurse was there, so I was a little surprised that he did not get a lot of run in the game on Monday night against the Clippers.
They got to get him back involved, man. I don't know. He didn't play well.
He looked good on Saturday, very McCain-ish, dribble drive deep into the lane, then kind of that little fallback jumper, little reverse spin on the baseline. I thought he looked good. He looked spry. He played 20 minutes. They didn't play him in the second half, but he scored 15 points. I thought he looked pretty good. I was a little surprised they didn't use him there. By the way, Sunday, I will be back in Philly on the Fanatic from 10 to 12:30. So you can hear me up in Philly on Sunday from 10 to 12:30. I'll probably be back making some periodic appearances here and there.
Hopefully you bring the truth like you brought it today. Philly needs it, Mike Gill. Philly needs it. This city's going soft. Mike, we appreciate it, man.
I bring it every day, 2 to 6, baby. You like what you hear? Tune me in. There's the show right there.
Boom, at Mike Gill Show. Mike, thank you, dude. We appreciate it, brother.
Thanks, bud.
See ya.